Arthur, let's start with you, if I might first welcome to this panel. There are people across North Carolina who might think, what's the big deal? Hasn't Western North Carolina always had an outdoor recreation industry? Help us understand why this moment is different. What's so big about this big deal? And how big is it actually?
That's a great question, and thank you, Anita. So the outdoor recreation industry generates $28 billion a year in North Carolina and creates 260,000 jobs. And so people don't realize how important that is to the state's economy. It's bigger than financial services and the pharmaceutical industry. And I think, while this people have been coming here for 200 years for wellness and health and the air and the water, recently, I'd say in the last 5-10 years that I've been in Western North Carolina, I've just noticed that people are seeking authentic experiences. They want adventure, and what better place than to come to Western North Carolina, where we have the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, where they can experience cultural and historical experiences like the Qualla Boundary and the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians, and then Nantahala Outdoor Center with paddle sports. And so we could go on, but I think the synergy between outdoor recreation and craft beverage and craft food that you find in all of the towns in Western North Carolina, in Sylva, in Bryson City, in Waynesville, just to name a few, Franklin, I think all of that's important. And working for Western Carolina University, we've intentionally tried to promote small businesses and the economy of Western North Carolina, and outdoor recreation is a big piece of that.
Terrific. So I'm curious, Corey, Sarah, last decade, is that when you've seen this big explosion in this industry sector?
Yeah, so I think that one thing that we noticed opening up in fall 2010 is we saw that obviously the economy was not necessarily the best. In Macon County, we were close to 15% unemployment. And so we look at that and how that relates to outdoor recreation. Obviously, there's less expendable income. And so one thing that we were immediately getting feedback was we saw people were doing more, obviously, local and regional trips because they didn't have expendable income to go on maybe vacations that they thought they would have. And the beauty of outdoor recreation is, we've got so much Forest Service land in each of these counties. So it's just a great resource. And so, with that being said, we've seen every year it's just been compounded. What started off probably as an option for people has now become a lifestyle.
Corey, you may be the first person I have ever met who found the silver lining in the 2008 recession. Give us a little sense of your story.
Sure.
You're an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is huge in this region. How did you get into it, and what are you doing?
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Macon County, and I was fortunate to have a dad that really saw the outdoors as an area that he and I could connect. So we spent a lot of time in the woods being able to, spend time together. And, as I've grown older, I've seen that it's just a great opportunity for people to be able to experience the same thing that I'm passionate about, which is really where Outdoor 76 stemmed from. And, when we started putting together our business plan, we looked at it as what type of opportunity we had to really try to capture on a market that we felt like was tapped, but it wasn't really in the capacity that we thought it could be. If you look within a 2-hour radius of Western North Carolina, or Franklin in particular, we've got close to 12 million people that could drive 2 hours and get to our location. And so what does that mean from an economic standpoint? It means that there's a lot of people in metropolitan areas that have expendable income that would love to come and play in our backyard. And so that was a big deal for us to be able to recognize that, and then also come up with a game plan and formulate on how do we capitalize on that.
Sarah, what kind of supports are in place for entrepreneurs like Corey who've got a great idea and see a market they want to capitalize on?
I think local governments and economic developers in the region have really recognized that entrepreneurs are the backbone of our economy, and there's been a real shift in focus towards small business development, small business support. We have our Mountain West partnership here in the 7 western counties that is very focused on promoting the region for small business and entrepreneurial support. There's loan programs that we're connected to. There's educational programs through the community colleges in Western, and really just trying to align all the resources that exist in the region and get them in front of the entrepreneurs that have visions like Corey.
And of course, these entrepreneurs are creating multiple ripple effects in communities. Let me stay with you for a second, Sarah, and just ask you to talk about innovative strategies that you see communities undertaking to really take full advantage of this outdoor recreation industry.
I think the small towns in our region have really gotten on board with downtown revitalization and recognized that the downtowns are the heart of the community. I've heard them called the living room of your community. You want to have a place where your residents can go and hang out and build community. And that is amazing for entrepreneurs. There's a lot of opportunity there. Outdoor recreation is a lifestyle sector. People want a nice community where they can see live music, visit a microbrewery, eat local foods, go to the farmer's market, and our downtowns are places where that's really happening.
Say a little bit, if you will, Arthur, about the kind of support that Western Carolina is offering to entrepreneurs and others. Let's talk more broadly about workforce development, if we might.
Right. So we're really active in partnering, for example, with Southwestern Community College. Paul Wolf, who runs the outdoor leadership program there. A lot of those students come to Western, finish up their degrees. So we are interested in creating that talent pipeline for the workforce for outdoor recreation in our region and nationally. We also support students developing businesses while they're a student. We have trade shows that encourage that. We have pitch events to encourage entrepreneurship where we get the community involved as a judge. And so we're trying to train and create that ecosystem so that it's valuable and can have that ripple effect, like you said, to our regional outdoor economy.
So could you help the audience understand just in a little bit more detail, when we talk about training for the outdoor economy, what particular skills or jobs do we have in mind?
So there's obviously starting your own business. So Corey didn't mention, but he's a Western grad, and he went out and started a really cool outfitter retail. I think you have craft beverage in there too, and he's expanding. Justin Paget, who's in the audience, he started Landmark Learning, which is the premier outdoor education organization for, recognized nationally. And we also have students that go into leadership positions at the Nanahill Outdoor Center. And so I probably could go on, but we're really partnering with the region's organizations, both for-profit and nonprofit, and trying to listen to them and see what they need in terms of skills like leadership and communication and, getting our students to network and value the so-called soft skills that will help them not only in this economy, but really any industry.
I want to stick with this notion of collaboration for a second, because clearly this kind of work doesn't happen without lots of people coming together, sometimes across differences, to make it work. Let's talk about the policy environment. What are things that the state or your local governments could do to further catalyze this industry sector?
I can't have this conversation or almost any conversation about growing our economy right now without bringing up the need for high-speed broadband. It's a huge need in rural Western North Carolina, all parts of rural North Carolina, and rural United States as a whole. I think we've made great strides working as local rural communities to beat that drum and to work on it as much as we can, but there are policy changes that could be made that would incentivize that last mile broadband that we need. We all have really decent internet at our homes. Thankful that we do as a rural region have a strong middle mile network, but the last mile to the home, it's going to be very difficult to grow this sector and to attract the types of folks that want to work here and live in a beautiful place like this if they don't have good internet at home.
Thank you. Other thoughts? I saw you both nodding your head, so I presume you totally agree. More broadband capacity, but what else?
I think that one thing that that has been mentioned in passing as well is housing for individuals. And I think that that's something that a lot of communities struggle with. And I think that it's going to be a bigger need, obviously, as each of our communities grow and as the outdoor rec market gets bigger. There's more people that want to be a part of the communities. And obviously that's a challenge. That's not something that is immediately put in place. It takes planning, takes logistics. And so it's a challenge that clearly every community in Western North Carolina is really faced with. So
I'm going to come back and talk about that in a second, but Arthur, I think you wanted to jump in.
Well, I think, last fall we were partner on a grant, a $1.5 million grant from the Appalachian Regional Commission. We partnered with the Southwestern Commission. Mountain BizWorks in Asheville was the lead agency. So those federal, or state opportunities for funding so that we could partner different organizations to support the economy, that's incredibly important as well.
Got it. So let's go back to this point that Corey alluded to, which is lots of people are moving into this region, and that's a good thing. Some of them who are moving in for a matter of days and weeks. They're your tourists. Others are moving in for some part of the year. They're your second homeowners. I'd like each of you to talk a little bit about how you balance the interest of permanent local residents against these newcomers who are certainly bringing resources and increasing the tax base and all the things that you appreciate, but come with their own sets of challenges. Who wants to go first?
I'll start. I think a big part of the work around outdoor recreation is trying to leverage that interest in the region into a year-round economy. So we're taking, people come here because it's a beautiful place and they want to spend time here. But tourism jobs are seasonal and they tend to be lower paying. So how can we leverage that into more of a year-round economy where we can create jobs for folks that already live here or entrepreneurial opportunities for people that grew up here rather than just enjoy the seasonal economy and then suffer through winter.
And so what are some of the ideas on the table to do just that?
Well, I think, again, it's creating the types of communities that not only attract those people, but that can support those people. And that's Community Development 101. That's having good housing opportunities. That's having good transportation, water and sewer infrastructure. That's just the basic, making sure our communities can support the populations that we have that are growing.
Corey, how do you see the tension and how is it being balanced?
Well, it's always an interesting conversation being a native of Macon County, and clearly we get a lot of Atlanta, Georgia traffic. We get a lot of Florida traffic. And, the biggest struggle that I think locally that anybody would say is finding that balance of development and progressiveness in communities without losing the sense of heritage and culture that make each small town unique. There's a reason that people are interested in coming to our small towns and communities in Western North Carolina. And obviously, you have to be very sensitive to understanding that you don't want to lose that character, because that's what makes each of our place that we call home unique. But in the same sense, we have to have a willingness to be able to work and understand that we're working towards a bigger goal. We don't want to stay complacent in the size of our community. We don't want to stay complacent in our workforce development. We want to progress, but we have to do it once again in a responsible manner.
So Arthur, your title is Executive Director of Community and Economic Development and Innovation.
Correct.
What are the innovations that help to balance these tensions?
So I think that in terms of Western, the innovation and new products and new designs, and we're not as focused in transportation infrastructure and some of those resources that we need. But I think what I love about outdoor recreation community is that everybody's connected, everybody knows each other. It's a great industry to participate in, and I think collectively, now we have the data and we have the Outdoor Industry Association numbers and facts, so we can sort of, we have common language that we can talk to the legislature about or leaders about. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of movement in the last 5 or 10 years with the outdoor economy in Western North Carolina.
I love the idea that you point out, to Sarah and Corey's point, that this industry sector is also building a sense of community, right, not necessarily in the geographic sense, but across geographies. Which brings me to this point, because Western North Carolina is vast. I think I realized that before this visit, but this visit has certainly honed that home for me. So which counties, Sarah, are we talking about today as we talk about the outdoor recreation industry?
Which counties?
Which counties?
Haywood.
Because they're your counties.
They are my counties. Everything west of Buncombe, where Asheville is. So we have Haywood, Jackson, Swain, Macon, Clay, Cherokee, and Graham counties. Some of the, I think people recognize town names. We're sitting in Cullowhee right now, which is an unincorporated community where Western Carolina University is. We're down the road from Silva, 7 miles from the university. Bryson City is right at the front door to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Franklin has the Appalachian Trail going through it. Out in Murphy and Hayesville, we have beautiful Lake Chatuge, Lake Santilla out by Robbinsville. So we live in paradise out here, and I think everyone across the country knows about Asheville now. But and to our benefit, I think that's had, that benefits this region. But all of our small towns are rich in culture. You can walk down the street and meet people whose families go back generations here, and they are used to living in paradise. I think we're just now starting to make a little more noise about the outdoor industry, but it's always been a part of the community out here.
Well, I have to say, vast as it may be, I am insanely jealous that you get to call this your backyard every day. Yeah. We're talking to people all across North Carolina. What do you want them to know about this region that I haven't asked you yet?
Well, I think I want people to know that the folks in Western North Carolina, we're not looking for your help or your handout or whatever. There are a lot of smart people here. There's a great university here. There's a great community college system, great councils of government. And so we're very much working on our issues. We want the rest of the state to realize that, and we also want them to come out here and participate and see how beautiful this area is. It's a treasure, and people realize that. But we're working on creating an awesome industry that is going to create jobs and economic development out here in the West. And I think we have a lot of things to share with the rest of the state. We have a huge Outdoor Economy Conference, October 10th of next fall. We'd invite the whole state to come to that. It'd be a great place to showcase what the region is doing in terms of outdoor recreation, gear design, and manufacturing.
And out here in our 7 counties, we do have an abundance of resources to help with business development, with funding, with planning. We are resource rich.
So are you inviting people to bring your ideas and
start
a business in Western North Carolina?
Yeah, we will help you find a building, and we will support you.
All right, we've got bring your money, bring your ideas. What do you want from the rest of North Carolina, Corey?
I think that the big thing is just, that I take away from it, it's just people understanding the passion and just the sense of pride that people have here in Western North Carolina. It's a special place. I've been fortunate to travel a lot, and I'm proud to call these mountains home. And we're better equipped now than we ever have been from an economic development standpoint. We clearly have great resources in place to be able to help people, whether they're relocating or starting a business or a second homeowner, whatever it might be. I think that people would be pleasantly surprised to see how hospitable and how wonderful this place is.
and you expect them to come with that too. So they should bring their humility and good manners when they come.
Absolutely.
Sounds perfectly reasonable to me. I want to thank you all for sharing just the great insights about this outdoor recreation industry. Many of us come to this region of the state and we enjoy it, but we don't fully understand what goes into making it happen. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. At this point, we're now going to turn to audience questions. We've got.
I realize that you want to talk about all of the good things. Having lived here a few years, I can tell you there are some other problems I'd like to see you address a little bit if you can. There's the traffic. There are the water and sewer concerns of some of our small communities who don't have sufficient water and sewer. There are school and education concerns. And I know this is not the focus, but if you don't have those things addressed, it's very hard to have a good outdoor recreation industry. So if you could speak to those.
Yes. Thank you for that great question. And I think, Sarah, you were intimating this when you talked about Community Development 101 and making sure the basics were in place. So I think I'll just point that question to you, if I might.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that the reason local government works on economic development is to grow the tax base. And when we grow our tax base, we have more resources to build infrastructure. We are rural Appalachia, and we have been supported by federal subsidies for decades to build transportation, water and sewer, and schools in a lot of instances, because a large percentage of our land is held by the federal government and isn't taxable. So I understand your dismay, and it's shared by a lot of people who work very hard every day to create more opportunities for these rural communities so that they can afford the nice things like good roads and good infrastructure. But we're trying to grow our economy for that reason.
Either of you want to add anything before we go to the next question?
So back in February, we had a gear design and manufacturing summit where we invited about 30 businesses to come to campus, meet with our College of Engineering and Technology, tour our Rapid Center, which is a center for R&D and prototyping. And we also had a hackathon as part of that. And these businesses gave us product design flaws, issues, that the students had 2 days to solve those problems. And so I think 150 students were involved, and the winning 5 teams were able to present at the summit in front of this crowd of economic developers and businesses. And so the university is very intentional about building the relationship, not only in retail and parks and rec and things that are incredibly important, but also the manufacturing piece, because we know that manufacturing does have a high multiple. The salaries are really competitive. And so, yeah, that's an important focus for us. And we're really being intentional about that to support kind of all aspects of the outdoor economy.
Interesting. All right, well, it looks like we are running out of time. I do want to thank you all for participating on this panel and recognize explicitly the tension between continuing to try to grow your economic base and making investments that support longtime residents. To Corey's point, housing is probably where you see this show up the soonest, but it is not the only place where the tension exists. Thank you for being open about that and sharing that with the rest of the state of North Carolina. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As Western North Carolina continues its economic boom around the outdoor recreational industry, it will also need to find ways to manage its environmental resources, the natural resources that are, in fact, at the very base of this industry sector. Without doing so, the industry sector will not last very long.